So I have just a short exercise for this. We're going to go back to the functional JS repo, and it's in the callback section. So we have this callback, only a few, but we also have one last thing for the module pattern and closures, that number 7, the toaster one. If you want to design your toaster, you can get started with that. So what we're doing is in the closures, we're doing number 7, which is the toaster. And then for callbacks, we're going to do all of them 1 through 3. And then there's also extra credit if you finish early that combines callbacks with closures. It's pretty interesting. So we were just doing the last closure exercise, which is to use the module pattern to create a toaster. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. This is just sort of like expressing, I don't know, your creative side when making your programs. So this is an example of a toaster that has a max temp of 500. So how we'd call this, we'd say var, this actually would be toaster. So var my toaster equals toaster, call it. And then you could say my toaster dot set temp. I'm sorry, this should also be private. Set temp equals I don't know, like 300. And then so I'm sorry, we should pass it 300 like this since it's a function. So my toaster dot set temp, we're going to pass it 300. So and this says if the new temp here.
We want a comma after 500.
Nope, because oh, good point. Whoa. There we go. Thank you. So we have set temp, we're going to pass it 300. So new temp is now 300, and it says if new temp is greater than max temp is 500, we'll console log that temp is too high. Otherwise, temp equals new temp. And so what this does is this prevents people from being able to set the temperature of your toaster to too high. And anyone else, how else do people implement this? Have different implementation? Rich, I think you had one. What was yours?
I just kind of modeled it over the car one,
Mm-hmm.
and let the user like increment the, you know, like the light dark type thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so like the timer kind of?
Yeah, exactly. And then they were going to input, I didn't finish the code, but they were going to input, like, if it was just one slice, then it wasn't going to go for as long, and if it was 2 slices, it would, or whatever. But it wouldn't let the user mess with that inner workings of how long, you know, the toaster should run.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of similar here, like your user can't change the max temp to override.
Right. Cool. Awesome. So that's just an example of really, it's an example of making a class-like constructor in JavaScript, which is cool. So and the second thing that we were going to do, that we did, was the callback exercises. So I'm just going to paste this in. Do this really quick. All right. So the first one says, write a function, func caller, that takes func, which would be a function, and an arg, which could be any kind of data. And the function returns func called with the arg. as an argument. So the first thing we need to do is to write a function called funcCaller. So that just equals a function, and again it takes a func, and then it takes an arg, and excuse me, and then we are going to call func with arg and return it. So that's the first one. The second one is a function called firstVal. So we say firstVal equals a function, right? Here's our function body. And our first parameter is going to be an array, and the next one is going to be a function. And we're going to call the function with the first value of the array, right? So array at the 0th index. And we're going to call it with that index, which is going to be 0. And then we're going to pass the entire array. Cool?
Yeah, that's where I kind of got tripped up.
Do you have a question about it?
Yeah, I guess it's maybe the wording of the thing. So it's going to call the function with just those 3 arguments. One happens to be the first one.
Yeah.
The next one, I don't understand index pound, index number.
Oh yeah, index number. And then the whole array here. Cool. And so now we're going to write a different version of firstVal that doesn't matter if it's an array or object. So we're just going to call it a list. It's going to take a func. So what we can do here, we can say if, we can say like array.isArray. So this is just a method that checks if something is an array. So we can just pass, and we pass list to it, and it will return true if it's an array. So if it's an array, we're just going to do the same as before, right? We're just going to pass the first one. Else we are going to deal with it if it's an object. So we're just assuming that's either an array or an object. So otherwise, so one way we could do this is we could just loop through, so var k in list. So we can just loop through the list, and then we could just return out of it, return, and this would just loop once. K, or list at k. So this is just a property value, and this is the property, and this is the entire list. And if you return out of it, then it will stop looping. And we can just return this one too, so it's consistent. So that's one way to do it. You can also just do, so there's this one method called object.keys. And then you can pass the list there. And this returns an array of all of the properties. So we can call this prop array. And then we can say, func, and then we don't need to return it. We'd say func prop array. Okay, func list, and this is getting the value list prop array at I, comma, prop array at I, which again is the property name. So object.keys, what it does is it returns an array of all the keys in that object. And then list. So that's just another way that you could do it.
Where are the eyes coming from?
Oh, I'm sorry, it should be 0. I'm just so used to doing I. Thank you. Yeah, 0.